Is super people actually dying, and what is the future of the game? I'll be covering all of this because I got the special opportunity to sit down with the top developers at Super People along with the director of the game and discuss a lot of burning questions and discuss the future of the game and the biggest update that's coming this December that'll totally change the game in general. In this video, we'll be covering an absurd amount of topics, but just to name a few, we'll be covering if crafting will get removed or not, or if it's staying, why on earth the firearms expert has yet to be nerfed, will oceanic players finally get their own servers, and what the heck's going on with the time to kill in game. There's so much to cover in this video, and I'll be summarizing all the changes coming to the game that were discussed during the nearly 3-hour-long meeting that I had with the Super People developers. I'm the only person in the world making this video, and this is the only spot where you can get this information, so be sure to watch all the way to the end. And if you have any questions or concerns, comment them down below. I'll respond to every single comment. And with that, let's get into the overall summary of that 3-hour-long meeting and everything you need to know. I also forgot to mention there's some massive updates surrounding audio in the game, vertical audio, footsteps, all of that. That's going to be towards the end of the video, along with so many other topics, so make sure you make it all the way to the end. And with that, let's hop right into our first topic. So at the start of the meeting, the developers gave us a general understanding of what was happening, and then after they went through all this, they opened up a Q&A where us, the partners, asked them questions, and I'll break down all their answers and responses quickly. So basically, starting in December, they're going to have much more vigorous marketing activities because there's a huge update, and they're going to do them about 4 weeks in advance to really prepare for this update. And I don't know how long the campaigns will be, but it's going to bring in a lot of new players, that's for sure. One of the biggest focuses of this massive update in December is to simplify and make the gameplay easier, to lower the skill floor and improve the first time user experience. They know that the game is pretty hard to pick up in general, with a lot of variations in the crafting system. You also have 9 abilities that have 3 levels each for 27 different levels to perks, plus an ultimate, which adds a lot of confusing aspects to the game. Also having to get pills to level up, it just makes things overall very confusing for first time players. They're also going to be getting rid of the cost for picking your classes, which many people are super happy about, I'm sure. And if they don't fully get rid of it, they're going to decrease the cost of gold significantly, so it's virtually no problem whatsoever. That way you can always pick the class you want. Of course, tickets have been helping out a lot, but in general, it gives first time players a bad impression, so they're going to get rid of it or significantly improve it. Beyond this, all skills in the game are going to be getting a massive overhaul, along with huge changes to the UI in general to make it look a lot more simple and also a lot cleaner and easier to understand. One example of this is the sniper class has a ton of skills, but most players only really know about the amplify, steady shot, and airstrike. Most players don't know any of the other abilities, so more than likely they're going to be trimming the fat on most characters and getting rid of the more useless abilities that no one cares about, or combining them so it's easier to understand how they work. Let's talk about the new time to kill that's coming in December with a lot of massive changes in general. They're going to be significantly improving the overall time to kill and making it a lot more predictable across the board. This means they need to simplify their damage system because as it stands, there are way too many variables that determine damage and defense buffs overall. So more than likely, they're going to be removing damage perks away from the firearms expert and seeker. I'm assuming most characters that have lean abilities that give them defense or damage shall be removed or tweaked significantly, so it's a lot more predictable overall. Also, there's a decent chance that defense bars and attack bars will be completely changed. That way we can understand how the time to kill works. Many veteran players and new players often are confused how in some cases they'll die to 3 bullets, in other cases they'll die to 20, or they'll dump a whole mag in. It's just way too confusing across the board, so the entire damage and defense system is getting reworked from the ground up and making it a lot simpler to understand, giving us a much more predictable time to kill, which is a huge W across the board. The developers did not give us any specifics as to what abilities would be completely removed, but based off my deduction, I'm assuming most of the leaning abilities that give you damage or defense will be removed to balance the time to kill better. Moving on to their general statements about the crafting system. They do want to lower the learning curve so that more new players can mostly focus on skills and gunfights instead of crafting. However, during the Q&A, us as partners had a lot more questions about this suggestion, to improve the crafting system, and I will get into that right after this next point. The next point is they plan on making the combat tempo and overall movement improved across the board. The game's pace and tempo will be streamlined to feel a lot more snappy and responsive, which means faster and cleaner movement and parkour along with ability movement as well. This is a huge win overall, and I pray that they add a better sliding mechanic in general, but more than likely all the movement will be a lot more fluid, a lot more snappy and responsive, improving all aspects of movement in the game during this huge December update that is just around the corner. So beyond those exciting points, we also had a Q&A with the developers, which is a big chunk of this meeting, so be sure to keep watching to the end. There's a lot of questions you don't want to miss the answer to. To kick things off, Dietrich straight up asked if they were going to be getting rid of crafting altogether, which the dev stream did express that they thought about removing crafting, and they do want to make it simpler, but at this time they're not going to be removing it. Then Raylu, Quest, and myself all found that crafting was one of the main aspects that makes the game unique, and it also encourages players to move around the map collecting loot and improving their armor and weapons, and this helps to fight the camping epidemic that plagues games like PUBG and is slowly creeping on those solo lobbies in Superpeople. Since there was such good feedback from decreasing the crafting time down to 2 seconds across the board, the dev team has been seriously debating if crafting was necessary or if it was more of a fun part of the game or just too repetitive. Currently nothing is final and they're not going to remove it anytime soon, but they're definitely in the talks of making the crafting system simpler and also giving it more of a sense of achievement. I made sure that the developers knew that it would be a bad idea to straight up remove it without at least replacing it from something, and they thought these ideas were pretty good. I suggested that, hey, if you're gonna remove crafting, you need to increase the overall loot pool, because the best part about crafting is lowering RNG, because I'm not guaranteed to get good armor, but hey, I can at least craft it. So if they do get rid of crafting, they need to increase the loot pool, which they agreed with. And beyond this, if they do want to get rid of crafting or make it a little bit more simple, they should consider taking a note out of Apex's playbook and make it so that damage can upgrade your weapons and armor. I think it'd be an excellent idea. The more damage you do, the faster your armor gets upgraded, or maybe add a system where the longer you survive, your loot gets upgraded that way as well. They agree that all these ideas are possible, so crafting in general right now is staying. There are changes coming to the future, but all in all, the feedback was really good, and at least they accepted our ideas, so y'all don't have to worry about that anytime soon. If you agree with my ideas, be sure to comment your thoughts down below, and also let the developers know what you think would be a good idea for crafting. And with that, let's move on to another very important question regarding the servers in Superpeople. Tedesco is from Australia, so he made sure to ask about oceanic servers and whether or not they're coming to the game. The developers informed us that they've actually already built their infrastructure for oceanic servers and they're ready to go. Beyond this, North American servers in central and western parts of North America are ready to go as well. It all just comes down to player base. As for oceanic servers, the development team said that corporate, the big dogs up top, do not want to turn on the oceanic servers just yet until there's more players in general. It is possible that they might turn them on in the future, but right now it's kind of a weird standoff. Australian players and other people do not want to play the game unless there's oceanic servers, but they're not going to turn on oceanic servers unless more people want to play the game. It's a weird loop, but it might be solved in the future. As for the North American servers in central and western parts of NA, they don't want to add those just yet until we get more players, because obviously it would destroy our queue time as we know it. Probably getting 5 to 10 queue times every single game, it would totally ruin the overall game. So for now, North America will continue to merge together, and as the player base grows, they will definitely add more servers. They have all the infrastructure ready. All they need is more players to play the game. Since it's still along the topic of servers, Raylu also asked the developers if they would consider doing a region lock or something like that. The developers said they thought about doing a soft ping lock for some players, but that could be quite difficult for parts of the country that have super high ping in general and fight other players on super high ping. It's not as big of a deal and nothing would really change, so that low ping lock would only be for certain parts of the world, and as it stands, there's not enough players for this to actually be a great solution. So in the future, it's possible region locking could happen, but more than likely it won't, and right now their main priority is making sure that matchmaking is good, people get as best as ping as possible, and the overall servers continue to improve as the player base increases. Once we have more players, we'll have more options, but for now, things are just going to vibe out the way they are. This next topic is incredibly important, going over the balancing of characters, more specifically when a character is super strong in one game mode versus another. The example Tedesco used when he asked this question was how they would make Driver more balanced, considering he's very good in solos, but not so good in squads and kind of mediocre in duos. It's actually funny, as he asked this question, I suggested in the chat that they increase the overall defense of his car when he has more teammates and or more enemies, and you can do this across the board with all characters depending on their abilities, making them stronger in certain squad settings. That way a character is just as good in solos as it is in duos as it is in squads. Obviously this topic is super complicated overall, but it's good that the developers have great solutions for it and they're working on even better ones. So soon in the future, hopefully characters will be more balanced and it won't matter what game mode you play, they'll still be viable in every single game mode. All right, now let's talk about the big dog, the big elephant in the room, the reason lots of players are quitting. Why has the firearms expert not been nerfed yet? And to add on to that, just on the side note, the gas soldier gas going through walls, a little bit overpowered. The development team is aware of both these issues. Gas soldier will be nerfed soon. Firearms expert is the more pressing one, will be nerfed before the December update and probably on the December update as well. The developers and the director apologize for how slow they have reacted to this issue during the meeting, and they felt really bad overall. They didn't mention it in the patch notes as they should have, and they need to improve their communication in general. I made sure not to let them off the hook and talked about how insane the damage is. For those of you who don't know, when you combine all the buffs with the leaning and the defense and the slow-mo, you get about 115% advantage against your enemy in terms of damage taken and received. Also, you have faster fire rate than the enemy. It's just absolutely ridiculous how broken this character is. On screen, I'll pop up some like situations where I should have won, but I died to it. But beyond that, everybody knows it's crazy broken, and they apologize for the extreme negative experience so many players have been experiencing. I also suggested that they should have some form of emergency system for when a bad patch goes out so they can patch stuff within 24 to 48 hours, and they said they are working on it, and in the future there'll be a lot more surveys and overall communication with the partners like myself so these patches can get approved way faster than they normally would. The director also completely agreed with everything I said and admitted it was their fault with acting so slowly, and in the future they are creating systems so that this does not happen again, because obviously it's been devastating for the player base and has really killed the vibe overall with how many firearms experts they are. And that'll soon be nerfed before December, and then probably nerfed again if they don't nerf him hard enough, and hopefully in the future when this happens they'll disable a character. And speaking of which, they actually, as of recording this video, they will be disabling firearms expert in future tournaments until he is fixed. So that's a W, a right move in the right direction. I know this character should have been nerfed about over a week ago, but hey man, sometimes it doesn't work out the way you want it. The important thing is they know they messed up, they're apologizing for it, and they're doing the right thing. Overall, it's a really bad situation, but it's going to work out soon. So for those of you who quit, get ready to come back with this fat update in December, and maybe a little bit before that, depending on how hard they nerf firearms expert. Moving on from all the balancing talk, we need to discuss some issues that are making us lose new players, and if you only have a few hours in the game, you need to hear this if you were unaware. When you first join Superpeople, it'll ask you if you're new to the game or if you are familiar. If you select that you're new to the game, you will be put into lobbies against other new players and bot players as well. Due to this new update not having a ton of new players, you're mostly fighting bots, and also crafting is disabled until you reach level 5. A lot of new players think that the game only has bots when, trust me, there is well over 1 million players that do play this game. You're just stuck in bot lobbies. So I made the suggestion to the director that they need to make it way more clear that they're fighting new players, bots, and crafting is disabled until level 5, or if they hit the secret kill threshold. That was confirmed that if you get a certain amount of kills, you'll get put into normal lobbies. But I also suggested there needs to be a button that'll take them out of this and throw them right into the deep end, which they agreed with. So in the future, there'll be much more communication explaining to you the situation with the lobbies, and also a button to get you out of there. That way you can start fighting real players a lot faster. Beyond this issue, another reason we're losing a lot of new players is wrongful bans. For those of you who don't know, the anti-cheat is actually insanely good on Superpeople, but sometimes it's too good and you accidentally ban some innocent players. There have been known some very rare cases of players doing some crazy movement tech that shouldn't exist in the game that triggers the anti-cheat, or they run a weird software on their program. The good news is most of those cases is everyone has been unbanned, and whenever there's an error with one player and they do get unbanned, they unban all the rest. It does take a super long time to confirm these bans because they want to make sure everyone's legit. So they do their due diligence, which does add a little bit time onto it, but just rest assured, the security team is forever improving. Wrongful bans are going down like crazy, and most people have been unbanned that weren't supposed to. And if you watching this have still not been unbanned after wrongfully being banned, send in a support ticket so they can review it. They do review everything, and in most cases, it is resolved pretty quickly if you are actually legit. The important thing to take away from this is they are well aware of the wrongful ban issues, they're actively fixing all of it, and their anti-cheat is still kicking out. I am well aware this video is getting super long, but there's just so much to cover. This meeting was 3 hours long. I'm doing my best here. Hold on, guys. There's still a lot of stuff to go about audio and other stuff, so keep watching the video. And with that, let's talk about marketing. They did say they're going to do a massive marketing in December, and basically the reason for this big update is so that the company gives them even more money to get more players going and get that marketing cranking. We did discuss the possibility of a Twitch Rivals tournament, so hopefully something like that happens. They're also going to be increasing the overall tournament hype and getting the community more involved. And some really huge news is custom lobbies. There's a great chance they might come around January after the massive December update. So within like the next 3 or 4 updates, there's a good chance we get custom lobbies, which should open up a whole new can of worms. I personally will be hosting my own Slap Cup events. I know a lot of other creators would as well. This would also open up much bigger GG/super people events across the board. We also dove in a little bit to non-verbal communication in games, such as special pings and so on, and they agreed that having an in-game chat might be helpful, but it looks like they're just going to be improving the overall ping system and making it easier to communicate with teammates that don't speak the same language, and going forward they will continue to improve everything. Shortly after this, Quest also asked for a roadmap, and they said depending on how good the December update is, they would give us a roadmap. So basically, if this December update slaps, they will update us with a 2023 roadmap on where the game is headed and even more stuff that is coming. Now for one of the biggest topics in the entire game, let's chat about audio and what's coming in December. It is very much common knowledge that the audio on Super People has definitely been a little bit funky since early access started, and even some of the different betas depending on which beta you played. The partners also brought up that some of the in-game audio, such as driving inside of a car or close range gunshots, are way too loud, so the developers agreed they will be decreasing the sounds while driving inside of vehicles and also close range gunshots, that way we don't go deaf while playing. They also considered us adding another volume slider for vehicle audio, which is another great idea. We'll see if they actually implement that or if they just lower the overall sounds of vehicles in game. Besides that, vertical audio and footsteps is such a big deal that people have been complaining about since the start of Super People, and apparently in December there will be massive improvements across the board. They identified a lot of fixes for many issues involving vertical audio, close footsteps, long footsteps, etc. So expect better audio in the December update because they found lots of solutions to problems. It might not be perfect, but definitely a huge step in the right direction and way better than the audio is currently. Another important topic is gun collision. As many of you know, if you run through a doorway and you're ADSing or you get too close to a window, sometimes your gun will end up pointing at the sky because it bumps into the wall. This is intentional and they like it because of realism, but it is happening too often, so they will be patching that out a little bit as well. Also on screen, I'll show you a little bit of a bug. If you ADS your gun and you have your back completely up against the wall, sometimes it'll accidentally unscope you, which can get you killed, as it did in this clip. So that bug is confirmed to be a bug, and that'll be patched soon as well. So all in all, gun collision will be improved, especially when you're hiding behind cover. Your gun will have less issues, but as it stands, it will be remaining in the game, especially for third person, because it's super important with all those people licking walls. I have another minor update when it comes to tournaments. It is confirmed 100% in the future. Kill points will be worth more in tournaments, so that's a huge W, which will probably translate over to normal games and ranking. So thank God kills will be worth more in the near future. Moving on from that, shotgun nerfs and balancing. They've been hard to balance in every BR since the start of time, and with the most recent update, they're a little bit overpowered, so we suggested they revert back to the previous way shotguns were. And as for Shotgun Master, remove that third pellet on the double barrel SP because it's the most broken shotgun in the game, and once that happens, it'll be a lot more balanced overall. And they're also familiar with SMGs being a little bit too overpowered close range, so they're going to find a happy medium between shotguns and SMGs, so close range feels a little bit better, and with all the time to kill improvements, the game will run run a lot smoother and more consistent in general. Moving on from there, let's talk attachments. The X4 extended mag and personal supplies. As many of you know, the X4 sniper has an extended mag, or you use it as a bolt shot. Some players actually opt in to not use the extended mag because some of the animations are a little bit funky. The developers asked us about this and why we prefer it. As we said, the animation's a little bit funky, so they're going to look into that and fix the overall reload animation and potentially buff the extended mag, making it shoot a little bit faster. That way it has a purpose, especially considering it's much more rare to find. Beyond that, some personal supplies are not spawning in with attachments that they need. An example is the X4 doesn't come with a sniper extended when it should, and the MP5 comes with a compensator when it doesn't need one and you can't use it. So in the near future, they'll make sure that personal supplies do not come with extra attachments you do not need, and they will come with all the attachments that your gun needs, which is a huge W overall. It's a slight mistake on their part, but they're going to fix it, and it really wasn't a big deal to begin with. Now moving on from that, even more excitingly, they're going to be improving the attachment experience in general and also the looting overall. It's super annoying when you have a level 5 helmet and you accidentally pick up a level 2, because then you're much weaker. This will be disappearing in the near future, making it so you have to double tap your interact key if you want to pick up a lesser armor or weapon. Huge W's in the chat going towards the way of Apex with their quality of life. Also, we made the suggestion that attachments should be a lot easier to put on. Instead of having to drag them to the specific spot, you just have to drag them on the gun and they will automatically attach, similar to Apex Legends, which is another W system that they are looking to put in place. So all in all, the looting experience and attachment management will be so much easier in the near future. And with that, gamers, that about covers it. I know it was super long, but thank you guys so much. And I will continue to update you with all the crazy stuff coming. And keep in mind some more breaking news before you guys leave. There should be a dev meeting probably tomorrow around November 16th, covering a lot of new stuff as well. It will contain a lot of the information I covered today. So this video will remain relevant for at least a couple of months. So be sure to share it with your friends and let everyone know the future of Super People. And again, if you have any questions, comment them down below. I'll be responding to every single comment. If you need help with the game, or if you want to improve with the game, check out the tutorial playlist that is on screen now. I upload new videos about every other day, going over secret tips, tricks, movement tech, you name it, I got it. I'm also live 5 days a week on Twitch, so go ahead and check that out. Peep all the links in the description and have yourself a wonderful day.